I'm JT, and joining us now, Denise Gosnell, who is an amazing entrepreneur and helps a lot of others do this as well. If you're thinking about saying bye-bye to your current job situation for the new year, oh, you are in luck right now. Denise, welcome in. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you so much for having me, JT. I'm excited to chat with you today.
So let's get a little bit of a background on you. Where did you go to school, and how did you jump into the entrepreneurial world back in the day when you started?
So my main residence is in Indiana. So I went to Anderson University and then Indiana University for my grad degree, and I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years now.
Awesome. So I would imagine you have a company or two in your portfolio now?
Yeah, it's so funny, JT. I have 3 companies actually, and I kind of got on the proverbial hustle and grind that a lot of people, get to, where they start working way too much. And one that led me to one of my companies being called The Vacation Effect.
It's a new book you've got out right now. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so it would be okay if I tell you what the term vacation effect means to start with, just so everybody understands what we're talking about.
Sure.
The primary meaning of the term the vacation effect is, JT, right before you go on vacation, how you get like a month's worth of work done in the 2 days before you leave. You and your team are like super productive.
Right.
Have you ever experienced that where you're like super productive, like Superman? You're like getting stuff done. Like, man, this is amazing.
Just went through all that.
Okay, cool. Well, then so like a lot of people just did that, getting ready to leave for the holiday break, right? So what happened is you were forced to focus on what really matters and to eliminate or delegate the stuff that really doesn't matter. And so it's kind of like if this room were to be set on fire right now, like where you're recording this, I'll bet you'd get out of the room pretty darn quickly, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I call forced hyper-efficiency. Forced hyper-efficiency is where you're actually forcing yourself to focus on what really matters and eliminate all the BS that we tend to allow to creep into our work week. So that is the magic of what I mean by the term the vacation effect, that hyper-efficiency you get right before you go on vacation, which if you actually put it into your everyday life, people could work a whole lot less and be a lot more productive. Business owners that I work with and just anyone in general can benefit from this principle. Yeah,
but doesn't that take a surgeon to surgically remove the phone that's been fused to our hands that we can't seem to get rid of to accept emails and texts and phone calls and distractions? My gosh, it sounds like a great idea to do that and line everything up and get rid of the noise, so to speak, to accomplish what your goals are for the day to grow your business. But what's your advice for people that really have a tough time unplugging from the things that distract them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the biggest problem, and then I can mention the way to solve it if that's okay. The biggest problem is that our hustle culture, especially in North America, United States is the worst, I think, where we've got this hustle and grind mentality. We basically are expected to work all the time, and we're measured on how much we work, not on how productive we actually are with the time we spend working. People are made to feel guilty when they take their holiday break off. Like right now, you might be feeling that pressure to check your phone. That's what's part of our culture. So what happened to me, JT, was I used to be a workaholic, working 80 hours a week, running my 3 companies. And it wasn't until I had a house fire, reevaluated my life, and realized that I was doing it all wrong. And I actually had to limit the amount of time I was willing to work and to force myself to focus on the needle movers and cut out all the fluff.
I would imagine you thought things were great and you were grinding and you were rocking it. And then when you went through that experience with your house fire and you readjusted how you approach your 3 companies, that it probably became more productive and more successful.
Yeah, it's so funny. I made the most money in my life at that point. With the year after my fire, when I actually wasn't the year after my fire, it was a few years later when I figured out this whole principle of the vacation effect. That year, though, that I worked 40% less, I actually made the most money of my life, and I'd worked 40% less. Now, that doesn't mean everyone will magically just make a lot more money just because they work 40% less, but it was what it was making me realize. It was making me realize all the things I was allowing in my life that I literally, if I just reframed and built my business around my life, or people that are listening that aren't entrepreneurs, if you build your career around your life instead of your life around your career, where the business stuff always gets put first. No, what if me, for example, now JT, I have an average of a 3-day work week, and so each month of the year I give myself 8 business days off. So I put those on my calendar. I already have January all planned out. So which 8 days I'm going to have, 8 business days I'm going to have off. And guess what? I work my work around it. I schedule my calls around it. If someone says, hey, Denise, are you available on that day? If it's my freedom day, my business day that I don't have anything scheduled, the answer is, well, how does Wednesday work for you? I'm not available Tuesday. They don't need to know what I'm doing or what I'm not doing.
Right.
That's none of their business.
Absolutely. And I think that even if you're not an entrepreneur, these types of principles and practices can be done no matter what you're doing or what work you've got going. And it's just a matter of organizing, right? And getting detailed about you taking control of the situation versus the job taking control of you. So what are some tips on how people can actually get going and reorganize and get to the point where you are that you sound like you've got it under control pretty well?
Thank you. Yeah. The first thing they can do is to just recognize that results versus the time they spent is way more important. I'm on a mission to help us start focusing on a results-based economy instead of a time spent-based economy. Like the time clock is outdated, in my opinion. Like micromanaging your employees is outdated. If you hire good people and they produce results in less time because technology and their own intellect allows them to do that, let them go home early every Friday. Or, give them the ability that they just knocked it out of the park with some great new thing that they just did. Let them go. Say they're a golfer. Let them go do that kind of stuff. Like we micromanage our people too much. Entrepreneurs tend to. I don't, but I used to until I realized what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So switching to a results versus time spent economy is a way better approach. And if you're an employee like I used to be, I used to negotiate based upon my results. So, everyone listening to this right now that works for someone else, I used to negotiate a 4-day work week way before the pandemic, way before this was the norm. I negotiated whatever I wanted, but I focused on results. I figured out what the result was that my employer wanted, and I went to them and said, when I do this X result, when I get you the sales you wanted, or when I outperform all other associates. At that time, I was an attorney at a big law firm. Will you give me this, 4-day work week? And they always said yes because they had nothing to lose. And they're like, well, what if somebody else asks me? I'm like, well, then if they produce the results, why do you care? Give them what they're asking for.
Right.
Everybody wins.
I've always wondered why, sales managers require their staffs to show up at 4:30 every Friday afternoon to have a meeting. The only reason they're doing that is to make sure that they're in charge and they have control of you and you're not out on the golf course. But my question to these people that I've seen doing this, why do you require them to be here? If they're 110% above budget this month, what difference does it make?
So to me, I'm on a mission to get rid of the American grind. We're not in this is not with the Industrial Revolution and all the advancements in technology, this isn't the 1940s anymore. We're still working off of people's backs and not rewarding them as much as we should. And entrepreneurs are guilty of doing this to themselves too.
Yeah.
What is the point of being a business owner if you don't have a flexible work week for yourself? If you expect yourself to work all the time, how can you ever expect your employees not to model your behavior?
Well, quickly, Denise, you've seen Shark Tank before. Mr. Wonderful says, and so does Mark Cuban, I think all of them have said it at some point to the folks that want the New Deal to get their entrepreneur business going. If you're not working this thing 125%, 45, 50 hours a day, then you're off course here and you're not going to be successful. Truth in that or no?
I disagree with that for the most part. There's a time and a place for doing a little bit extra work. When my book launched, I worked extra that week.
Right.
But guess what? I took 2 months off this summer. And guess what? I take eight business days off each month in addition to the weekends. But it's not sustainable long term. You actually focus on being smarter. If you limit the amount of time you're willing to work to whether it's 5 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever, if you can't figure out in 5 days with the technology that we have available to us and learning to delegate and learning to work with other people who have that strength, all you're doing is filling it with a bunch of wasted time surfing the internet and meetings and not arranging your schedule in a productive way. I truly believe limiting the amount of time you're willing to spend will actually help you get the better ideas faster because you have to think smarter instead of working harder.
I love your model. Her name is Denise Gosnell. The book is called The Vacation Effect. Denise Gosnell, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you and happy holidays.
Thank you for having me, and listeners can learn more at vacationeffectbook.com. Thank you so much for having me.